And you're listening to the Thursday night edition of Impact Showdown Radio on July 19th, 2012. I am, of course, as always, the Black Avenger, Lee Sanders, and I thank you all so much for checking out tonight's episode. We just saw Impact Wrestling go off the air. You want to talk about anarchy. You want to talk about carnage. It is a night that was just filled with dysfunction as the Aces and Eights made their presence known throughout the night. We will definitely get you all caught up in just a little bit for those of you that were not fortunate to see Impact Wrestling. I want to just take this time to thank those of you that are listening to this show right now on Blog Talk Radio and over at our sister website at InfinityOneProductions.com. Feel free to hit us up on Facebook at InfinityOneProductions.com, and you can also interact with us on Twitter at InfinityOneProd. We'll definitely be opening up our phone lines in just a little bit in the later part of the show, as we definitely want to hear from you all and get you all takes on tonight's episode of Impact Wrestling, as tonight was the Open Fight Night edition. That's right. It was another installment of Open Fight Night. Do hope those of you have had a fantastic week so far, and you all are gearing up for the weekend. If you are not able to see the Thursday night screening of The Dark Knight Rises, have no fear. In just a little while, it is going to be opening nationwide. And this guy is going to be going with his lovely girlfriend to go see the movie. What a great way to cap off a 3-day weekend. Do hope those of you had took the liberty of securing your tickets in time, as tickets have been available as early as 2. Now I'm hearing even as early as 3 months ago. So for those of you that might not be fortunate to secure your tickets, maybe you'll have better luck in the upcoming weeks, as these Dark Knight tickets, at least for this first week, you can forget it. They are very hard to acquire. I had even took the liberty of looking up some Dark Knight tickets online. I had cruised around and made a pit stop on eBay, where Dark Knight tickets for this first weekend showing are going as high as $150. That's right. We have people that are actually willing to pay $150 for Dark Knight tickets just to be able to see this weekend showings. That's right. Crazy, I know, but it is what it is, folks. So let's go on ahead and let's talk about the Open Fight Night edition of TNA Wrestling. And you want to just talk about a night where basically the wrestlers were just able to run the asylum, as there were no wardens, there were no officials, there was no high-up executive that was handling all the stuff that was going on throughout the night. It was just pretty much a free-for-all. This really, truly was Open Fight Night, as we would get greeted by Taz and Mike Tenay, who gave us a recap about what all had transpired last week, as the Aces and Eights, they had ganged up on Sting, they ganged up on the immortal Hulk Hogan, and as a result of that, Hulk Hogan has suffered a fractured pelvis. He is out. That is it. He had took the liberty of uploading some pictures on Twitter, and he had showed a picture of an operation that he had for that area, as it looked like he had about at least 15 stitches in there. I mean, it was really gruesome to see, but he is out. There's no telling when he's going to be back. Sting, his injuries are unknown at this time, as neither men are at the Impact Zone tonight. As far as Dixie Carter goes, Dixie Carter, she's not there. Dixie Carter is meeting with Spike executives in New York, possibly talking with them about what exactly is going on with the whole DirecTV Viacom deal, as the negotiations continue to be at a stalemate right now, and as a result, the DirecTV subscribers, you are really feeling the impact, no pun intended, as you are without Spike TV. You are without 25 other Viacom channels. And we definitely have been hearing the feedback that have been coming in from you all that are very frustrated with that. We'll definitely pick up more about that later on in tonight's show. Tonight's show is actually going to be very brief tonight. We're just going to cover what all had transpired on tonight's episode of Impact Wrestling. And then we'll try to get you ready for next week, as the RCWR show is going to be making a rare Monday night appearance. More details on that later on in the show. But let's pick right back up where we were mentioning what had happened with Sting and Hogan as they're out. Dixie Carter, she is out, as from there we would see the one and only, the Cowboy, James Storm, come down to the Impact Arena, who brought up several valid points. First off, he congratulated the new TNA champion, Austin Aries, and he also would focus his attention on the question that has been surfacing as of late. Well, if Austin Aries is the man, Cowboy Storm, where does that leave you? And as far as James Storm is concerned, he is still number one on the leaderboards, as he feels he will win it all. That's right, James Storm is feeling that he will win the Bound for Glory series, as he then turns his attention to Robert Roode and says, hey, Roode, haven't forgotten about you. This is as personal as it's going to get, as I plan on eventually beating the living crap out of you. He would also focus his attention on the Aces and Eights, claiming that they have no balls hitting people from the back. And from there, folks, he would also bring up Hulk Hogan, wishing him a speedy recovery. As from there, it is time to get down to a little bit of business, as he feels he doesn't want to fight a cub. He wants to beat up a lion. And he goes on to say that there is a certain lion that has been running around in the promotion that he feels is the measuring stick of the business, that he feels is one of the greatest wrestlers to ever step foot in the ring, as he calls out the Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle. And there we have the controversy, as Kurt Angle's music comes on. Kurt Angle is nowhere to be seen, folks. That's right, Kurt Angle is nowhere to be seen, as his music just continues to play, and as a result, we're all wondering exactly, where is Kurt Angle? Where is the Olympic gold medalist? They play his music an additional 3 more times until it got to the point where James Storm, he sat up and he sent one of the cameramen to go to the back area to try to see exactly where is Kurt Angle. Well, we would see Kurt Angle laying on the ground being assaulted by no other than the 3 men, masked men, known as the Aces and Eights, as they continued their assault on Kurt Angle, leaving him there lying on the ground. As from there, we would take our first commercial break, but when the action would pick back up, we would get a recap on what all had just transpired, as we have our first of many Bound for Glory series matches, as we see the Samoan Machine, Samoa Joe, come out, and he is still peeved off from his loss that he suffered to RVD last week, as his agenda right now is to make people tap out. He knows that he can quickly get back on top of the leaderboards by picking up a win by submission, and what better way to do that than by getting a submission win over the Pope D'Angelo De Niro. That's right. Samoa Joe would call out the Pope, and he would come through on his victory tonight, folks, as Samoa Joe, he made the Pope tap out to pick up 10 points to get back on top of the leaderboards. We'll definitely update you all more on the leaderboard status throughout the course of the night, as we'll give you a quick rundown. Now, from there, folks, we also get a message from Dixie Carter as Mike Tenay and Taz reveal that Dixie has apparently took to Twitter with the announcement of a new talent who is going to be joining TNA effective next week. Now, it would turn out that this new talent would be no other than third-generation Mexican lucha libre grappler Chavo Guerrero. That's right, folks. Chavo Guerrero is coming to TNA next week. We'll definitely give you more insight on that, as I'll definitely be sharing with you my thoughts on Chavo Guerrero coming to TNA, what it means for the roster overall. So you definitely want to stick around for that. That's going to be a great piece. And from there, folks, we see footage that is shown from earlier in the day as cameraman had caught up with Robert Roode, asking him, doesn't he think it's a little weird what all had happened to Hogan and Sting, as Roode really isn't sure what to make of exactly what the cameramen are saying. Furthermore, what exactly are they trying to imply? And from there, Roode says he has bigger concerns right now, as he needs to focus his attention on the one and only Austin Aries, which prompts the cameraman to ask whether or not he's definitely going to be calling out the TNA champion, which prompted Roode to say, you just continue to watch and you'll find out. As from there, folks, we see Jeff Hardy come out to the Impact Arena next, as he is ready to call out somebody in this Bound for Glory series as it continues. That's right, points are up for grabs with all the matches that are going to be transpiring throughout the night, with the exception of possibly a main event, possibly if it's going to be Roode versus Austin Aries. As Jeff Hardy is getting ready to call out whoever it is, we see Robbie E make an appearance and say, hey, Hardy, you're not even on the list. I'm challenging you. And whether Jeff Hardy liked it or not, folks, we would see these two get it on. And, man, do you want to talk about a cheap way to pick up a win here, folks? We would see Jeff Hardy, unfortunately, lose this match, and I have been a Jeff Hardy fan for a very long time, and I can honestly tell you this was one of those type of matches where I felt very embarrassed for Jeff Hardy, because other than what had happened at Bound for Glory a while back, which was dubbed as probably one of his worst matches of all time, this match that he had with Robbie E., just the way that it had ended, it was just really unfortunate, because the way that Jeff Hardy lost this match was by Big Robbie. That's right, Big Robbie. He would play a very critical role in this match, as all throughout the contest he was trying to figure out ways to distract Jeff Hardy, which gave Robbie E. the upper hand. And at one point during this contest, towards the end that is, we would see Jeff Hardy leave out the ring, and he just starts attacking Big Robbie, and all Big Robbie is doing is putting his hands up, trying to protect himself. He's not throwing a strike at Jeff Hardy. And I know initially, me as well as several other people, we all were saying to ourselves, why isn't Big Robbie just knocking out Jeff Hardy? But then I started thinking about it a little more, and I said to myself, okay, well, if Big Robbie was to attack Jeff Hardy, then he would make Little Robbie lose the match. So obviously Big Robbie is setting himself up so that Robbie E. can pick up the victory, as the referee would count Jeff Hardy out. That's right, folks. And as a result of that, we would see Robbie E. pick up 5 measly points. That's right. We would see Robbie E. pick up 5 measly points as he is finally on the board. But you can just tell by the way this was coming off that not by a long shot is Jeff Hardy done with both Robbies. From there, folks, we see a new TNA gut check contestant by the name of Sam Shaw, who has briefly passed through Ring of Honor Wrestling as well as several other indie wrestling promotions, who is about to get his opportunity to try to prove himself worthy of a TNA contract, as he's going to be coming out next. As from there, we see a backstage segment with, get this, look at who's returning to Impact TV. It is none other than ODB and Eric Young. And what a great slapstick backstage segment this was, folks, as we had ODB saying to Eric Young, where the hell have you been? The last time I saw you, it was on our honeymoon night, and I had said to you to go get me some fried chicken and get me some beer. Where the hell have you been? And EY would tell ODB how some guys had kidnapped him. They put him in a truck, and then they drove off. Well, it would turn out that these guys had wanted him to do a fishing show, hunting show for them, and he just had a whole bunch of fun, and one thing led into another, and boom, all this time had passed, and ODB was pretty upset with what she heard, as Eric Young, the only way he knew how to make it up to her was by giving her a kiss, which then prompted ODB to say, okay, well, we're good, but you still need to go get me that beer and fried chicken. So Eric Young, he promises that he's going to go get it right then and there. As from there, we see a recap of the AJ, Claire, Christopher Daniels, Kazarian, everything that has been transpiring thus far, and we're updated on what all went down last week, folks, as we see a backstage segment with Daniels and Kazarian talking about what is this proof that Claire has, and Daniels says he's not really sure, but it's going to prove that once and for all, AJ is the father, as they both continue to bash AJ for putting on a self-righteous type of image, while really what he should be doing is grabbing his pear and just admitting that as a man he's made mistakes. As from there, folks, we see Jeremy Borash is in the ring, and he introduces Sam Shaw. And just when Shaw was about to get the opportunity to face somebody on the TNA roster, we would see him get jumped by the Aces and Eights. That's right, folks. The Aces and Eights would make another appearance. And one of the things that I thought was a little bit interesting about this was that they did not jump Jeremy Borash. Now, I know Jeremy Borash, he can pretty much really bolt the hell out of a ring, but the way that these guys had came in there, trust me, they had enough time to grab Jeremy Borash, and the only reason why I'm bringing this up, it just really would have came off looking more like oh man, they're even taking out Jeremy Borash. These guys ain't no joke, man. This is really freaking serious. Really would have been awesome had it came off that way, but they didn't get Jeremy. They just focused their attack on Shaw, as we would then go to a commercial break, folks. But when the action would pick back up, we would see the TNA Gut Check judges, Taz, Al Snow, Bruce Pritchard, along with a few TNA officials trying to help Shaw out of the ring, as a recap of his beatdown is shown. A little bit later on, we see Mr. Anderson come out, and he's talking about douchebags and how on the last Fight Night installment, he called out Daniels, and that tonight he's going to call out a man he respects, someone he calls a friend, but also thinks of as a brother, but at the same time feels that no matter how much people try to smear his name, he's going to get 7 points off of him. That's right. Mr. Anderson calls out the phenomenal one, AJ Styles, and these two guys, for me, watching Impact Wrestling tonight, this was one of the main highlights of the night. This was one of the main attractions, as these two guys, they really put on a great match. I was really enjoying how these two had came off. They just worked so well together, and it just really had me appreciating Anderson even more. And I must admit, I was really amazed. I was very impressed with Mr. Anderson tonight. I didn't even know he could hang with AJ like that. I know that the two of them, they kind of briefly locked it up before. I kind of didn't really pay attention to it. Maybe it was because the way Anderson was wrestling back then, maybe it wasn't quite up to par, but it just seems like now he is really on point. I mean, Anderson, Styles, they really brought out the best in each other in this match tonight, as this match would end with Anderson picking up the win over the Phenomenal One, but it wouldn't end right there, folks. Post-match, we would see Claire Lynch come out, and she is yelling at AJ, telling him that, hey, she's been trying to call him all week, but he hasn't returned any of her calls, and that she was trying to deal with the matters in private, but since he doesn't want to talk with her, she has no choice but to air everything out in public. And that is the format, as the fans, they already know what time it is. They see exactly what's happening as they all start chanting, Jerry, Jerry, Jerry. That's right, the Jerry chants are continuing, folks, as we would sit up and see Claire Lynch bash AJ for not talking to her and having all of this information air out in the open, and that since he has such a hard time remembering what all had happened that night, and she tried really hard to refresh his memory. She told him, she said, look, we had a couple of drinks. I know you say you normally don't drink, but on that night you drank. It was a hot, passionate night filled with hot sex, and AJ, all he can say is, I don't remember. If that did happen, it must have been in your imagination. And this really upset Claire to the point where she sat up and said, okay, I'm imaginating, huh? Then tell me, how do you explain this? And she would go into an envelope, and she would pull out photos of her, appears that she's possibly naked, with a naked AJ laying in bed, and AJ is just knocked out from the few photos that she shows of them in the bed together, as we see one picture with Claire, and each picture, mind you, Claire is smiling devilishly at the camera as we see a knocked out AJ. We see one picture of AJ with him laying on his back, and she's kind of playing with his chest like in the picture. And then we see another picture where we see nothing but his trademark side tattoo that's plugging the births of his children. We see another picture of AJ laying on his stomach, and she's resting on him, again, cheesing. And this was just really disturbing. I mean, for me personally, it was disturbing in the sense of there's just no way in heck I'm going to be knocked out and be laying on my stomach and have a woman kind of basically be on top of me cheesing at a camp. Nah, it's just not happening. Apparently, folks, this all had went down the night that he had went to go see her at the hotel. I'm assuming that it was around the same point where AJ was supposed to bring Dixie over to go see her. But from what Claire was saying, the two of them, they were at it all night, well into the day. And as Claire shows these photos to AJ, she just storms off. She doesn't even give him a chance to rebuttal, as the fans, they are pretty much letting their displeasure be known with the Jerry chant, as they really are not trying to see this. And we know that we've been paying attention to all of social media ever since Claire Lynch has popped up. It was definitely really bad tonight. Many folks, they were letting Claire Lynch have it. Many males and TNA female wrestling fans were really voicing their opinions on this, as they felt that this garbage that they're seeing is really soap opera stuff. It's not what they want to be seeing. Hey, if you want to watch stuff like that, you still got Days of Our Lives, you still got General Hospital, you got all kinds of daytime talk shows that are on the air, and I'm not taking a knock at those. I've let it be known several times. I have my personal picks when it comes to daytime soaps. But there's a time and a place for soaps, as when you turn on wrestling, you don't want to see all that baby mama drama crap. You trying to see two dudes beat the living hell out of each other. I mean, come on, man, seriously. So hopefully, I'm praying, folks. I'm praying. I know you all are praying too. You keep the fingers crossed. Maybe this will play itself out and be done maybe before September, hopefully. Who knows? But from there, a little bit later on, we would see AJ Styles in a backstage segment, and he's just rubbing his head, and he's looking at the photos quietly, as he's not really sure what to make of what all has just happened. As from there, we see Bellator fighting announcer / commentator Sean Wheelock join Mike Tenay and Taz at commentating during a match. And was it just me, or was I probably maybe the only one that could care less what this Sean guy was saying about Bellator? It just really seemed kind of distracting. I could appreciate the fact that TNA and Bellator, they're doing this little partnership thing. I get that, but this whole cross-promotion thing, I wasn't really feeling that tonight. It just kind of felt, I mean, it is similar, don't get me wrong, wrestling, MMA. It is similar, but I think it's more difficult to try to listen in on the conversation that's taking hand when the guy that is commentating along with Taz and Mike Tenay, he doesn't really sound commanding. And when I say commanding, commanding to the point where you remember what he's saying. And unfortunately, for the love of me, I cannot remember what the heck he was saying as he was talking. I know he was plugging a pay-per-view that was coming up, but that was really it. It just really seemed a little bit, I don't know, it just seemed like it was a bad move having him come out there and plug his stuff, especially with a live crowd that was really letting their voices be known. I just kind of think maybe something like that, it should have happened on Impact Wrestling's YouTube channel / their chat room website. Maybe they could have did some type of a deal where Jeremy Borash, Sean, they could have just been chatting throughout the entire night on Impact Wrestling, talking to the wrestlers at the same time. That kind of really would have just made more sense to me, because unfortunately, I know Sean tried very hard to really throw that pitch out there, but I'd be surprised if they're successfully able to get a majority of the TNA wrestling fans to go check out the Bellator, because it just really didn't come off commanding, I feel. I could be wrong, though. But with regards to the match that the three guys were calling, it was RVD, as he would come out. Keep in mind, he's still fresh off of his victory against Samoa Joe, and he's pretty much saying there's no one he'd rather kick the crap out of than the fallen scumbag Christopher Daniels, as our next match for Bound for Glory points is Daniels versus RVD. And this was another match that was pretty awesome, I feel, as we would see Daniels pick up 7 points. And he got it the shady way, as he had got a little bit of an assist from the ropes to steal a win by pinfall. Backstage segment we go now, where we see reactions from Austin Aries, who's commentating on what had transpired between him and Robert Roode last week, as Austin Aries feels that Roode was just really coming out there, not really saying anything, but wants to talk about fluke. And Austin Aries would throw that word fluke right back in Roode's face, folks, as he mentions how Roode, he's fluking all right because he fluked the way he was basically defeating everybody to retain his championship. Austin Aries would also say he is no fluke because he goes out there, he does the brain buster, he gets his victories cleanly, no controversies. And from there, he talks about how when Robert Roode was holding the championship, he was a fluke, but that the championship belt that Austin Aries is holding is no fluke. He would bash Robert Roode's robes that he wears to the ring, saying that it's a fluke, while his capes that he wears, they are not a fluke, as he's looking at his cape to show to the camera, and he happens to stumble upon a calling card by the Aces and Eights. And he says that the Aces and Eights are a fluke as well. That would definitely come back to bite him later, folks. Now, for those of you that might have not been checking out Impact Wrestling on their YouTube channel, you definitely want to make sure that you're able to do so if you're in front of a personal computer, a desktop, laptop, or portable device, because in between commercials, you can just hop on their YouTube channel and you can see backstage reactions from wrestlers that have participated in the matches during the night. JB gets you caught up on some other things that's happening within. They're usually about 3, maybe 4 minutes long as the commercials on TV is happening. But we would see Robbie E. with Jeremy Borash, who was just going on and on about how he feels that he's going to be the one to win the Bound for Glory series. This guy has already gotten a huge freaking big head as he's finally won a match, and he's tripping over 5 points. He has a long ways to go before he can really start boosting. But nonetheless, with his little measly 5 points, he is just all up and down telling Jeremy Borash how he's going to win the Bound for Glory series. Well, once that's over with, you come back on, we see Taz and Mike Tenay, who are on the phone, and they happen to be on the phone with Brooke Hogan as they're trying to get an update on how Hulk Hogan is doing. Brooke Hogan, the only thing she will say at this time is that she's not able to talk about it, as she wasn't able to talk to the doctors, and that Hogan is in really bad condition and that she really doesn't want to talk about it. From there, folks, we'd see a recap of Joseph Park versus Bully Ray from last week, as we would see Joseph Park with Garrett Bischoff in a backstage segment as the two of them are having a little bit of words. Park, he's trying to offer Garrett a little bit of advice as he feels that he can help him with his services that he provides, such as contract law, property litigation. And Garrett asks him, hey, what happened last week? What was up with that? Joseph, he replies, hey, I'm proud of myself for standing up against that bully. But Garrett is actually talking about the look that Joseph had got in his eyes last week, followed up by giving Bully Ray a black hole slam, something that only Abyss does, as Joseph reassures Garrett that that was all him and that Garrett maybe has taken too many shots to the head. Fifth match we go now, folks, as we have our next Bound for Glory match, points up for grabs, where it's Bully Ray taking on Magnus. Now, in a backstage segment, we would see these two staring each other down as Bully Ray tells Magnus, go ahead, go on out there first. I'll meet you in the ring, big man, no problem. So we see Magnus come out to his entrance, and he's going down the ramp, and he's getting ready to get in the ring, when the next thing you know, we see Bully Ray creeping up from behind, and he attacks him, and it's just happening like that for several minutes until Magnus is able to get back on the offense, and eventually the fight goes back into the ring where the bell officially started and the match was on. We would see Bully Ray pick up the victory right here as he was able to score it by pinfall. So he picked up 7 points, folks, and with that, that concludes the Bound for Glory series matches that took place tonight on Impact Wrestling, a.k.a. Open Fight Night, as here is the updated Bound for Glory leaderboards. Here we go, folks. We got Samoa Joe leading the pack with 47 points. That's followed up by the Cowboy, James Storm, at 43. Kurt Angle is coming in at 27. Mr. Anderson has 23. Jeff Hardy has 21. Christopher Daniels slowly creeping his way up as he has 19 points. RVD and Magnus, they are both tied at 14. We also have Robbie E. with 5 points. The Pope, AJ Styles, they have no points. That's right, folks, they have no points. And actually, we need to make a brief adjustment right there. Let's go back to Daniels for a second. We need to change that. Daniels actually does not have 19, folks. Daniels actually won, what was that? Daniels had one by countout, I believe it was, or he won by pinfall. I'm trying to remember real quickly. Let's backtrack. Forgive me, folks. We got to make sure that this is updated, though, for you guys. Yeah, he won by grabbing the ropes. Yeah, he won by 7 points. So he actually only has 7 right now, so we need to scratch that. So Daniels has 7. So there are your leaderboard status, folks. As from there, we would see the former TNA World Heavyweight Champion Robert Roode come out as he is ready for his match against Austin Aries. And these two guys in our main event, they really threw it down. It was a somewhat rematch from their match at the last pay-per-view, Destination X. And these two guys, they were really having a field day with this, folks. It was just a really awesome match, but those damn aces and eights, they made their presence felt as this match would end in a no contest, folks, as they proceeded to beat down on Austin Aries as Robert Roode is just looking off in the corner and he is just smiling. He likes what he sees and he is just really enjoying seeing what they're doing to the TNA champion. But wait, Robert Roode would not be able to celebrate too long as the aces and eights, they then turned their attentions to Roode and they started attacking the TNA, the former, that is, TNA champion. That's right, they proceeded to beat the living hell out of Robert Roode to end this episode of Open Fight Night. So now, the main question is, of course, just who are these guys? What is their agenda? Let's look at all the people that they have beaten during the course of this episode, during the course of last week. So far, they have taken out Sting. They've taken out Hogan. They've taken out Kurt Angle. They took out the TNA gut check guy, Sam Shaw. They took out Austin Aries. They took out Robert Roode. What do all of these men possibly have in common? The only thing that I can possibly think of, now, the Sam Shaw guy, that was a little bit of a monkey wrench because all the other guys that I just named, if you exclude Shaw, they all spell out Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett, some point or another, he has not gotten along with all of those men. Now, why would he jump Robert Roode? That I am not sure of. But there's the argument that needs to be made, folks. Is it possible that it's Jeff Jarrett who's returning from Ring Ka King with a few of his men from that same wrestling promotion back to TNA and trying to basically do a hostile takeover. Who knows, folks, but I must admit this is very interesting. I know one of the ideas that we had floating around out there was, is it possible that maybe TNA has worked out some type of a partnership with Ring of Honor Wrestling? Maybe they worked out some type of a deal. If they honestly did work a deal with Ring of Honor Wrestling, then we wouldn't have seen Kenny King get stripped of the tag team titles. Kenny King would still be holding on to the belts right now, and he would still be throwing it down in TNA, basically cross promotions. He would be working both brands, but he got dismissed dishonorably. So, no, I don't strongly feel that Ring of Honor is behind this. I think this is a case of Ring Ka King. Notice something else that's a little bit surprising, too. We haven't brought up his name in a while, but he's been making a bit waves of his own. Mr. Joey Ryan, who has been sitting up, and he's been continuing to go into verbal fights with Taz. He's been saying his thing on Hulk Hogan. He's been talking about TNA. It's very possible that maybe Joey Ryan might have something to do with the Aces and Eights. That gives you a little something to think about right there. And let's not forget, folks, Joey Ryan is one of the co-founders of Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. So it's very well likely that Joey Ryan could have gotten some of his guys together to try to invade TNA. You never know. You got to really put those options out there, folks. But you must admit, in either case, if it's Jared or Joey Ryan, it's still great TV. One thing that is definite, and that is whenever Hulk Hogan does get back to 100%, 9 times out of 10, I strongly feel that we're definitely going to be seeing Hulk Hogan team up with Sting to take on these men. And maybe then the truth will be revealed, just who exactly are these people, or who are they working for, because they can't just be working for themselves. They got to be working for somebody. There's always a mastermind behind gangs like this, and I don't really feel that none of them are just speaking for themselves. They're taking out these guys on specific orders. So you really got to think about, well, who has that type of swagger? Joey Ryan has that swagger. Jeff Jarrett has that swagger. So it should be very interesting to see how this plays out. Overall tonight, definitely another solid episode of Open Fight Night, a.k.a. Impact Wrestling. Some people will probably sit up and argue that Raw was better this week, as they did episode number 999, as it was a pretty strong show leading into the 1000th episode of WWE Raw. And I could definitely appreciate that argument, as I feel that there were several areas of tonight's episode of Impact Wrestling that just didn't quite add up. And, you know, one of the things that I thought was a little baffling was that we have Dixie Carter announce 30 minutes into the show how Chavo Guerrero signed with TNA, but she doesn't put out another tweet for the rest of the night talking about what all the Aces and Eights have been doing. You go to Hulk Hogan's Twitter page. Hulk Hogan had put out a tweet several hours earlier today. You don't see a tweet from Hogan talking about, damn, brother, all this crap that's going on tonight on Open Fight Night. I really wish I was there, because I'd really be laying the charge. We don't see any type of a tweet from Hogan. We go to Sting. You go to Sting's Twitter page. Sting has been inactive since like July 10th or the 9th or something like that. So I really thought it was weird that despite all this carnage that we had going on, you had Sting, Hogan, Dixie, not near one of them sat up and had something to say about what all was transpiring tonight. I mean, we didn't even have Brooke Hogan say anything, and it could have been saved right there. It would have been kind of nice to have Hulk Hogan say, I'm very well aware of everything that has transpired on tonight's episode. I am getting tweets, I'm getting updates, I am aware of everything that's going on. Trust me, I'm going to be forwarding it to my dad whenever he gets better. I'm definitely in talks with Dixie to try to figure out what's going to happen next, because you could even go over to Brooke Hogan's Twitter page. She wasn't saying anything about what all had transpired during the course of the night. So TNA, they had a really good opportunity right here to kind of tie in, hey, this is what so-and-so said on Twitter. Yeah, for you all that, want to read more, be sure to check it out after the show. Wow, really great news right there. Give yourself a little more traffic is what I'm saying, folks, and they just didn't do that tonight. Huge missed opportunity right here. Other than that, I would have to say for this week, Impact was good, but out of a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to have to give it a 7. I just really felt that with those areas in particular, and that's not really overthinking it, folks. I mean, we've seen other wrestling promotions do exactly what I say. Good example is WWE. You have something like that go down, they're very quick to mention it in a tweet or, oh, hey, just got an announcement that apparently Vince McMahon said on Twitter that he's going to be showing up on SmackDown next week. You see stuff like that happen all the time, not just on their programming, but on other wrestling shows from different promotions as well. They know how to utilize the social media tool, and though I appreciate how far TNA has come, they still kind of have a long ways to go, because it's those little bit of details that'll really make it come off more over, I feel. Another thing that they could have did, maybe they could do it next week. They could have had the Aces and Eights pick on random fans. Yeah, they could have planted them, but they could have picked on random fans. They could have picked on the cameraman. Hell, they could have picked on Taz. Taz might not be able to take a bump anymore because of his neck, but who said he had to do anything crazy? They could have gave him a beat down, too, if they really want to make their point. That's how you end the episode of Impact Wrestling. You could have the Aces and Eights try to sit up, and they could try to do something to the announcers as well, and as a result of that, we don't get no more commentating for like a half hour or some crap like that. That would be pretty awesome, I feel. But let's see how it happens in the upcoming weeks as Aces and Eights. That's definitely one of the strongest angles that they got going on right now. We're going to do this. We're going to go on here. We're going to take a brief commercial break. And then when we come right back, get you caught up on the very latest on what all has been happening in TNA news. And we'll get you ready for some shows that's going to be coming up this weekend, leading up into Monday. So hang tight, as of course we'll definitely be opening up the wrestling fan line, get you all's reactions from tonight's episode of Impact Wrestling. We'll be coming right back, folks. Hang tight.
Tired of those wrestling websites that give you redirects, spyware, weird pop-ups? How about those misleading headlines? Instead of hitting the keyboard in frustration, why not visit InfinityOneProductions.com? Infinity One is the source for wrestling-related news and so much more without all the hassle. Visit InfinityOneProductions.com. Your keyboard will thank you.
Want to be part of the show? Want to share your thoughts? Call the RCWR Show toll-free at 1-888-342-9848.
And we're back. You're listening to the Thursday night edition of Impact Showdown Radio. I'm, of course, as always, the Black Avenger, Lee Sanders. Just some quick programming notes. The RCWR show will be airing Monday, July 23rd, immediately after the 1000th episode of WWE Raw. That's right. We're going to be celebrating the 1000th Raw episode. What better way to do that than to make a rare Monday night appearance covering this historic episode. Join me as I'll be joined by special co-hosts, the lovely co-producer Tammy, and we'll also be joined by special co-host guest, hip-hop rapper Scooter. It's going to be a pretty awesome night as we'll be discussing the historic episode of Raw, and we'll be talking about what direction WWE will be going from here on out. We'll give a in-depth look, analysis. We'll also talk about something that I feel really hasn't been covered on a lot of shows, which is their use of social media when you compare it to how it was 10 years ago. Are they using it right, or is it a little bit of overkill? Could it be possible that WWE may be alienating that hardcore wrestling fans that just want to see their wrestling? They don't care about the Twitter, the the Facebook, the Google+. They just want to see good old-fashioned wrestling. It's going to be a great roundtable as we'll be discussing that while also getting you caught up on the latest in WWE-related news and more. So definitely join us for that historic Monday night appearance episode that will air immediately after WWE Raw 1000, coming on at 11 p.m. Eastern. We're also going to be giving away some really cool prizes, so you definitely want to check that out, as it's not every day we make a rare Monday night appearance, so do join us. It's going to be pretty cool. Let's dip into a little bit of wrestling news right now. Now, I said it on here last week on Impact Showdown. A lot of folks, they felt like, it's not going to really make that much of a difference. Well, it does. We would see the ratings come in for TNA Impact's last show, which did a .80. I repeat, it did a .80. This has been the first time, really, since maybe the first week that Impact Wrestling went live, that the numbers have been this low. And that just goes to show you how much they have relied on DirecTV and the DirecTV subscribers, as now we sit up and we see that TNA, they're trying to tell DirecTV subscribers to drop them and do what they can to check out Spike TV on another cable provider as well as other channels. And it's just one of those deals right now where you can't help but feel bad for TNA right now, because let's face it, folks, the month of July, it really has not been kind to the TNA organization. The only good things that have been happening for TNA right now is that Austin Aries is the champion. But the timing is just unfortunate right now because we got all this crap that's going on. And then, of course, we got Chavo Guerrero, who is coming into the TNA. We'll definitely talk more about Chavo in just a little bit, but let's just stick to what all has been happening right now in the month of June. Again, we got the DirecTV, Viacom. Even as we speak, there still hasn't been a new deal reached, and as a result of that, we got probably millions of DirecTV subscribers that are without MTV, BET, Comedy Central, Nickelodeon, I mean, you name it. I mean, they are just without all of those channels, 26 channels total, and Spike TV, as well as all of those other channels, they are really feeling the hit. Now, you follow that up with TNA Impact Rewind getting canceled. That's right, folks. For those of you that may have missed it, as literally it was like at the blink of an eye, we would see TNA debut a new show called Impact Rewind last week, where they pretty much got you caught up on everything that had transpired the previous week on Impact Wrestling, get you ready for the new episode, as pretty much they had a 3-hour block of TNA programming. Well, after only 1 week, Spike TV, they decided to pull the plug on this new series, of course, after 1 episode. Now, it's being reported that Impact Rewind is scored, get this, a .02 cable rating. Now, we're doing our best to try to confirm this, but whether those numbers are accurate or not, let's go with the facts. The fact is, Spike TV pulled the show off of their channel. It must have been that bad for them to do that. Now, see, here's another case right here, folks, where TNA is suffering when it comes to advertising. Just backtrack for a minute, especially you hardcore TNA wrestling fans. Just feel this for a second. You're kicking back. Think about the past 4 consecutive weeks that you've been watching TNA Impact Wrestling. How many times do you recall them plugging Impact Rewind? I bet you will either say, I can't remember, or I think only once. It will probably be the latter. Y'all would probably say only once, because I know the first time I ever heard of Impact Rewind, they had brought it up 2 weeks ago, and they pretty much had plugged it only once. So it's like, okay, what the heck is going on here? That's not how you hype up a new series. It's just not. You want to really build. You want to do it a couple of weeks in advance. Really, you want to start hyping it up a month in advance, really, just to get the audience ready to check it out. If you're not doing everything that you're supposed to do to really be plugging it through all forms of social media, then guess what? Of course the damn series is going to fail. What else do you expect to happen? This is just another case of TNA really dropping the ball. I know they're trying to be loyal to Spike TV, but sooner or later, this is really going to grow pretty stale. Sooner or later, TNA's got to go to Spike TV and say, look, we could really use help really plugging the hell out of our brand. We really need help getting those advertisements out there, because whoever is in charge of TNA's advertising department right now, they have been doing a very freaking poor job. I'm sorry. Direct auto insurance don't even count. I mean, there's only so much direct can do. It's all about getting your name, getting your brand, getting your product, getting your company out there, doing whatever you got to do to get the word out so that you can keep getting in more cash. You can keep getting in more revenue. You can keep getting in more viewers, because the more people you get and the more people you get that'll like your stuff, the more they're going to sit up and they're going to spread the word to their people, and it's going to be a daggone chain reaction. So it's just common sense. It's one-on-one. That's all it is. So it's really unfortunate that they're sitting up and they had this show get canned, because it was a pretty awesome show. I love the concept. It could have actually been tweaked just a little bit. I'm surprised that for the 45 minutes, an hour when they do the commercials, that it was on the air. I'm very surprised that they did not take a page out of WWE's book and they did not give it the Sunday Night Heat treatment, where they basically could have showed a recap of everything that was happening and highlighted by showing 2 original matches just to get ready for Impact Wrestling. They could have used that as an opportunity to put guys in there that they haven't been utilizing within several weeks. You feel me? I mean, that's exactly how they should have done it, but they didn't do it like that. And I really hope that despite the fact that the show has been taken off of the air, I hope that in some type of form they can at least continue it on their YouTube or their Facebook channel, as I definitely feel it's got some life to it. It has a little bit left in it. They just need to retweak it a little bit, revamp it, and I'm sure it can definitely be popular. Just need to keep at it, just reformat it. Now, of course, everybody is continuing to talk about whether or not Karma is going to be coming back to TNA, and we had covered it briefly on the Tuesday night edition of the RCWR show. And just to reiterate, for those of you that might have missed it, definitely can't stress it enough. There's just no way Karma is going to be returning to TNA. The times have just changed dramatically in TNA. TNA, they are now sitting up and they're trying to set themselves up so that they can pay certain wrestlers to only work pay-per-views and a certain amount of TV appearances. I mean, can you just imagine living like that, folks? You fill out your W-2 paperwork and all that. You got your job, right? But your employer says, wait by the phone. We'll call you when we need you for work. You can't live like that, not when you got responsibilities, not when you got crap that you need to pay, especially if you're trying to keep a roof over your head. You need that money. You need it continuous. You need that continuous cash flow. That's just not going to be happening for a lot of people. So the way that they're really doing it now, the way that they're just making it their business to only make buku's money be available towards big-name people like Sting, probably Kurt Angle. We already know Hogan is up in there. We know Brooke Hogan is in there as well. Eric Bischoff. Garrett Bischoff probably makes more than all the freaking wrestlers that's in TNA. And yet they got to put him over. That's pretty jacked up, isn't it, folks? But it is what it is. But, no, I just don't see Karma coming back to TNA. Honestly, I think the only way Karma will come back to TNA is if maybe they paid her half or a third of what Brooke Hogan is getting. But, see, that's the thing. The last time Karma was in TNA, that was one of the main reasons why Karma left TNA, because Karma was the type of woman who she believed in everything being equal, and she actually tried to go to bat for the other knockouts when she was there and try to get them a pay increase. And TNA at the time, they just wasn't having it. So eventually, that would be one of the factors that would have her leave. So if things was bad the last time she was there, why would she go back? Especially if it hasn't changed as far as the money goes. Makes sense, right, folks? So, I mean, it is what it is right there. And, of course, we got to let you know about what's going on with former TNA wrestler Homicide. If y'all haven't been getting caught up with him in the Ring of Honor wrestling promotion, y'all might want to start checking it out now, because he's been working some really good feuds with Kevin Steen over the past several weeks, and it's just gotten to the point right now where every single time Homicide and Kevin Steen lock it up, Homicide is always able to beat this man. Now, coming up at a August 3rd event down in Baltimore, the Charm City, as I like to call it, Homicide is going to be taking on Kevin Steen for the Ring of Honor Wrestling World Heavyweight Championship. Could Homicide continue that undefeated streak when it comes to dealing with Kevin Steen? Who knows, but that should be a really cool match that's going to be happening right there. And, of course, we got some Matt Morgan news for you guys. It seems Matt Morgan has been making waves on Twitter, and he's really not even saying anything, folks. That is the beautiful part right now, as we had one Twitter user say to Sting, hey, is it true? Are you going to be coming to the WWE? And Matt Morgan, in a little bit of a answer, but not really an answer, he pretty much said, isn't it obvious? I can't really talk about it, is basically what he said. Then another user would sit up and say, really hope that when you do go back to the WWE, they make you a champion, and that prompted Matt Morgan to say something to the effect of, well, we will all see in good time. So he's being very cryptic, but at the same time, he's pretty much dropping those bombs. It's definitely obvious that the man is going to be going back to the WWE. If he's not, talk about a great work on everybody, but to add more fuel to the fire, that it is really looking as though Matt Morgan is definitely done with TNA. He recently changed his Twitter handle. He used to be TNA Matt Morgan. Well, he changed it to BP Matt Morgan. So that's another giveaway right there. And to make matters even more, maybe it is, on Twitter, TNA Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, that is, they dropped Matt Morgan. They're not following him anymore. So that's an obvious sign, all those signs right there, that he's definitely done with the promotion. So should be very interesting to see how this all plays out. Hopefully this WWE TNA lawsuit, it can hurry up and get swept under the books, because if there's ever a time that WWE needs a new, fresh, big man right now, they definitely could use one, because I know a lot of people are getting sick and tired of seeing Kane, Big Show, and a couple of other people. It would be nice to have some fresh guys up in there. And, of course, folks, we definitely got to let you know about Chavo Guerrero. Now, we touched up a little bit about it earlier. My overall takeaway from Chavo Guerrero coming into TNA, let's be honest, there's just no way in hell Chavo Guerrero is going to be a TNA World Heavyweight Champion. So let's just get that idiotic talk out the picture right now, because we already are hearing, oh, is it possible that Chavo can become a world champion? Something that, no, unfortunately, no. No. I'm not going to even wrap my brain around that. No is the answer. But Chavo Guerrero will tremendously help out the younger talent. He will really be able to get them spot on when it comes to working inside that ring. He brings, in a sense, a in-ring general type of role. You got to understand the reasons why Chavo Guerrero rolled out of WWE, and when you really think about it, I mean, dag, folks, let's not forget that poor character that he had, Kerman White or whatever that guy was. He tried to act like he was a white guy, and he was dressed in polo shirts and sweaters, and he had a little golf club and all that other ridiculous, silly crap. Let's think about just the way he was utilized in the WWE. And for those of you that might not be familiar with how he was utilized pretty badly. Now, some would argue that, hey, his success, it only came because his uncle was Eddie Guerrero. And that argument can be made. Trust me, a lot of people, they could appreciate that argument. I know I can definitely understand that argument. But let's not forget the run that he had as ECW champion. Even though it was rebranded, he had a pretty damn good run as the ECW champion. Something that I feel, of all the most underrated things that has happened in WWE that's pretty much got overlooked, his reign as ECW champion was probably one of the greatest highlights that he had while he was in the WWE. I can only imagine what he's going to be able to do in TNA. I mean, he definitely is going to be a future X Division champion. There's no doubt about that. I think he's going to definitely elevate the X Division just a little bit, not in a AJ Styles type of sense. I don't mean in that type of elevation, but he is going to make it interesting to watch, I feel. And mark my words, he's definitely, I feel, going to be working hands-on with the TNA bookers, creative. He's definitely going to be working with them, with the wrestlers, trying to make sure that they really come off more polished looking in that ring. Just wait and see. But I think it's very interesting. We got two guys that basically are trading off in a sense. We got Matt Morgan, who last was in the WWE. He had a pretty poor stuttering gimmick going on. He goes to TNA to get the opportunity that he feels. And we got Chavo, who leaves the WWE, but then it's kind of weird because it's almost like they did a really cool trade-off. It's like TNA got Chavo, WWE got back Matt Morgan, so it's kind of like a nice, fair trade deal there. Really kind of silly and cool when you think about it, I think. All right, so this is what we're going to do right now. We're going to go on ahead, and I think we got everything pretty much covered. I think the only things that really we didn't cover tonight was the fact that we had Joey Ryan, who just continues to be involved in his Twitter feud with Taz. I mean, if y'all haven't seen what's been going on, they've just been getting into it for the past couple of days. Nothing really too, whoa, man, but it's just one of those ways that TNA is basically trying to sit up and continue to add fuel to that little rivalry that's going on. Definitely recommend you check out his YouTube channel, as he has a new installment of Joey Ryan and a YouTube account or a YouTube camera. Really great stuff that he does. Really comes off looking pretty freaking awesome. You'll definitely get a kick out of that. It's better than the content that the so-called internet champion Zack Ryder has been putting out. You guys will definitely appreciate it. Recommend that you go check that out. Other than that, the Aces and Eights, they pretty much have been letting their voices be heard all throughout their Twitter pages as they continue to sit up and post images and tweets about what all they have been doing to everybody on Impact. As the latest thing that they got trending right now, and this just came in 10 seconds ago, hashtag Dead Man's Hand at Sting, at Hulk Hogan, at Real Kurt Angle, TNA Gut Check, Austin Aries, Real Bobby Roode. So they're making their voices be felt. And last we checked, they've been doing pretty good. They haven't really been putting out that many tweets. They got barely under 40 tweets. And get this, they've got 3,271 people following them. How cool is that? And they aren't really saying a daggone thing. Pretty awesome, ain't it? This is what we're going to do right now. We're going to go on ahead and we're going to open up our wrestling fan line right now. We were going to take a commercial, but feeling pretty good. Let's go ahead and let's go right into it. The number to call if you want to be live on the air right now, call 646-478-3525. Again, that number is area code 646-478-3525. So without any further ado, we got our good friend Dave, loyal listener, calling from the Michigan area. Let's go ahead and put him on the air right now. Dave, you're live, my friend.
Hey, thanks. I want to comment a little bit about the advertising and some other stuff real quick if you have time. First, I love that Chavo's coming in because I think he could be good for backstage. But I don't know how much money they're paying him, which I don't know if any of us do, but just think if they would have took that money and put it towards their advertising. Mm-hmm. Instead of bringing in another people are just going to keep calling another XWE guy again.
Mm-hmm.
And if they would have used that money and just bought commercial time, and I don't remember the only time I remember about that TNA Rewind was on Twitter when I heard about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually enjoyed that show.
It was good.
Yeah, it was. I enjoyed it. I mean, it was starting to look kind of stale, but then it started to pick up a little bit. I really liked how they're using Twitter. With these guys, they keep putting, every time they attack, I like how they're doing that. They're putting, like, a message across, like, and then they come out and they attack someone next and do that. I'm really enjoying that storyline because look at the last person they brought in when they did Invasion was Tommy Dreamer. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that's how it is, but it's possible we could see some kind of LWO type thing coming in with Chavo coming in now too, and Hector being there too.
Yeah, Hector is still floating around in there, isn't he?
He's a Spanish announcer.
Yeah.
I had a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm talking along, but my question is, do you have a problem? I'm not really saying it's a problem, but I noticed last week on the Impact Post Show that Kurt Angle compared Samoa Joe to a bigger Chris Benoit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have a problem with the wrestlers today using Chris Benoit.
You know what? I had heard about that. I wasn't going to touch it unless somebody brought it up. So I'm actually glad that you brought it up. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah, so that was interesting, and I did like how they ended the show because I think the reason they didn't do it, like you were saying, if they would have just attacked everybody, because everyone would have said, "Oh, this is a complete WE Nexus ripoff." If they would have just attacked the announcers and everyone there, everyone is coming off from everybody like a Nexus invasion or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like the mask, man, and I think if it was a kind of LWO type thing, I think that would be interesting too. Or if it is, like you said, Jeff Jarrett.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was kind of disappointed there's no knockouts matches tonight. But I think RVD and, was it Anderson?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was a very, no, wait, it was Daniels.
Daniels, yeah.
I thought that was the best. I enjoyed that match the most. And Robbie E is just funny. If you caught him on some of that stuff on the commercial break thing, that stuff was funny.
Yeah, I was actually just talking about that. Yeah, the Robbie E on in between the commercials. Yeah, for those of you that haven't been sitting up and you haven't been watching Impact Wrestling on their YouTube channel, can't stress it enough, man. They do some really cool stuff on there. Don't be discouraged by the number of views that you see on their channel. Like this week, they probably had an average of about 328 views. But it's really cool because it's live, and like you could have your computer on your lap and you could be watching Impact Wrestling on the TV, and then as soon as you see Impact Wrestling go to commercial, you just look right at your computer. You're already on the TNA channel on YouTube, and you can see the action pick right back up as Jeremy will be interacting with people. And Robbie E is a good example that David was talking about, because we saw Robbie E and he was just going on and on. He was saying some really funny stuff. Can't stress it enough. Check that out. With regards to Chris Benoit and the whole Kurt Angle comment thing about it and all that, I wasn't going to touch it unless somebody brought it up. So, Dave, thanks for bringing that up. Appreciate that. We definitely appreciate you calling into the show, as always. I kind of thought that of all the names to put out there, I kind of felt like Kurt Angle shouldn't have said it. But then at the same time, it's one of those, it's probably going to go a little bit unnoticed. Like, I don't think 6 months down the road we're all going to be sitting up going, hey, remember when Kurt Angle had said that thing about Chris Benoit? It's not going to be anything like that. I don't even think 6 months from now we're going to be even still recalling it. I think it's a different case if Kurt Angle was going around and he was sitting up saying it every single freaking week. Then he would definitely be feeling some real heated comments that would just be coming his way. And, it's just one of those type of deals, personally, if it would have been me in Kurt Angle's shoes, I just wouldn't even had said that. I would have sat up, and if I had to make some type of a comparison, I mean, honestly, man, there's other great wrestlers that are out there, really. There was no reason to even go with that. He could have sat up and gave Daniel Bryan a compliment. I mean, Daniel Bryan, he's freaking awesome. He could have said something about him. Man, he could have went the old school route, and he could have brought up the Dynamite Kid, whose style was very similar to Benoit. He could have brought that name up, but he chose not to. Hell, he could have brought up Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, but he decided to not go that route. But, hey, he's Kurt Angle. He's an Olympic gold medalist. A lot of people, they respect the hell out of him for everything that he does in the ring, because every time he steps in there, he just goes at 100%. He goes hard, and you can appreciate that. So, at the same time, does he say controversial and stupid things that he shouldn't be saying? Yeah, he be saying things. I mean, if you were to just sit up and take a full day to gather up all the most silly, obnoxious things that Kurt Angle has said, you could probably have about a 3-hour show just talking about Kurt Angle, his greatest sound bites and tweets and all that. But he's Kurt Angle. no matter what he says, no matter what he does, people are going to love him just the same. Unless he does something really foul, that's the only way I see fans turning their backs on Kurt Angle. Well, folks, that's pretty much going to do it for the Thursday night edition of Impact Showdown. I know we're ending a little bit early tonight, but I'm actually a little bit under the weather. And plus, I want to get ready for the Dark Knight Rises, as I'm going to be going to check that out later on Friday. So that should be pretty awesome. But as I mentioned earlier during the show, we got a special upcoming RCWR show that's going to be appearing this coming Monday night, as we're going to be coming on immediately after Raw 1000. It's going to be coming on at 11 p.m. Eastern. Do join us for that. That's going to be pretty awesome. Also, I'm going to be doing something really unique and really cool for our YouTube audience, our YouTube subscribers. I'm going to be putting up a really cool new show just specifically for the YouTube audience. It's going to be called Cereal Bowl Talk with Lee Sanders. I know it's a little corny name, but I'm working on the title. Basically, it'll give me a chance to shake off the shackles of doing the show on Blog Talk and really being able to really speak my mind and go outside of wrestling talk. So you definitely want to check that out. Got a really good first installment that's going to be coming. If you're on the East Coast, you'll be able to check that episode out, as it'll be available on our YouTube channel sometime just a little bit after 10 a.m. So if you probably hop on there at 10:15, you should be able to see it. We definitely will appreciate any type of feedback that we get from it. Let us know what you think about it. It's going to be really cool, really awesome. Definitely want to check that out. And that's going to do it. I do hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. Thanks to everybody that had participated in our chat room tonight. Thanks to those that had called in to the show. Mad shout out to those of you that are going to be listening to the show on the download, especially on Stitcher, our Stitcher family. Shout out to you guys. And also we want to give a shout out to those of you that had took the liberty of checking out our post show for the Money in the Bank pay-per-view and our WWE Money in the Bank Call That Match special. You continue to make that be our most listened to and downloaded shows. We appreciate the love from you guys. We're going to have a freaking fantastic show Monday night at 11 p.m. Eastern, so make sure you join us for the Raw 1000 post show. Till I hear from you guys next time, folks, you all be safe, be kind to one another. Take care, folks.